They thought it was just another mercy mission, helping one wounded human in the wreckage of a border skirmish. But in the grand calculus of the cosmos, no good deed goes unnoticed, especially when humanity repays its debts. Deep Space Emergency Captain Alina Rodriguez rubbed her tired eyes as she stared at the navigation console of the Stellar Dawn. The small cargo hauler had been her home for the past 8 years, carrying medical supplies and essential goods to the Outer Rim colonies. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest, and Alina took pride in knowing that her deliveries often meant the difference between life and death for frontier settlements. The ship's computer chimed softly, indicating they were approaching the hyperspace exit point. Alina straightened in her chair and began the familiar sequence of commands to drop back into normal space. The Stellar Dawn shuddered slightly as it transitioned, and the swirling blue tunnel of hyperspace dissolved into the star-filled darkness of the Andromeda trade route. Navigation check complete, Alina muttered to herself, a habit she'd developed during long solo runs. Position confirmed, all systems nominal. She was carrying a critical shipment of antibiotics to the mining colony on Kepler-4 for to see. A bacterial outbreak had already claimed dozens of lives. Every hour counted. That's when her proximity alarm started screaming. Elena's hands flew over the controls.
Ow!
Her heart racing as she tried to identify the threat. The scanner showed a large object directly ahead, drifting without power or navigation. Lights. At their current speed, they would collide in less than 2 minutes. Emergency stop, full reverse thrusters, Alina commanded, gripping her chair as the ship lurched violently. The inertial dampeners whined in protest, but the Stellar Dawn began to slow. As they drew closer, Alina could make out the shape of the object on her VIEWSCRE. It was a ship, but unlike anything she'd ever seen. The vessel was elegant and organic-looking, with flowing curves that seemed to have been grown rather than built. Its hull was a deep bronze color that reflected the light of nearby stars, and delicate fin-like structures extended from its sides.
Ow.
But what caught Elena's attention immediately was the damage. Massive tears in the hull leaked atmosphere into space, and several of the fin structures had been completely sheared off. Elena's training kicked in. In space, there was an unwritten law that transcended politics, species, or territorial boundaries. You help those in distress, because someday you might be the one who needed help. She activated her ship's emergency beacon and opened all communication channels. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Alina Rodriguez of the human cargo ship Stellar Dawn. I'm reading severe hull damage and atmosphere loss.
Ow.
Do you require assistance? Static filled the communication array for several long seconds. Then, a voice responded, but it was unlike anything Alina had ever heard. It was melodic, yet harsh, with clicking sounds interspersed between what might have been words. The universal translator struggled for a moment before providing a translation. Human vessel. This is Navigator Zrikstal of the Zephyrian exploration. Ship wind through stars. My ship has suffered catastrophic failure. Life support is failing, and my navigation systems are completely destroyed. Alina felt her pulse quicken. She'd heard of the Zephyrians in trading port rumors and military briefings, but had never encountered one personally. They were described as an advanced insectoid species with incredible navigation abilities, but also as proud and isolationist. Most species gave them a wide berth, respecting their desire for independence. Navigators Rikstal. What is your immediate status? Do you have functional life support? There was a longer pause this time. When the voice returned, Alina could hear something that the translator couldn't quite capture, but which she recognized as pain and desperation. Negative, Captain Rodriguez. My atmospheric processor was damaged in the ... incident. I have perhaps 3 hours of breathable atmosphere remaining. My species requires a specific mixture of gases to survive, and my emergency reserves are nearly depleted. Alina was already running calculations in her head. Her ship's medical bay had basic atmospheric generation equipment, but she would need to know the specific requirements to help. More importantly, she was carrying time-sensitive medical supplies. Every hour she delayed meant more lives at risk on Kepler-44 to see, But looking at the damaged ship drifting helplessly in space, Alina knew there was really no choice to make. Zrikstal, I'm going to attempt a docking maneuver. My ship has limited medical facilities, but we might be able to stabilize your condition. Can you transmit your species' atmospheric requirements? Another long pause. When Zrikstal spoke again, there was something different in his voice, something the translator rendered as confusion. Captain Rodriguez, I must inform you that my people have no formal alliance with humanity. There would be no political benefit to assisting me, and my ship carries no cargo of value to trade. Why do you offer aid? Alina blinked in surprise. The question seemed so strange to her that she almost didn't know how to answer it. Because you're in trouble, she said simply. That's reason enough. The rescue attempt docking with the Zephyrian ship proved to be one of the most challenging maneuvers Alina had ever attempted. The wind through stars was tumbling slowly, damaged. Maneuvering thrusters firing randomly and making it nearly impossible to match velocity and orientation. Alina spent 45 precious minutes carefully matching the alien vessel's erratic movement, using microbursts from her own thrusters to gradually synchronize their motion. When she finally managed to establish a secure connection between the airlocks, Alina discovered her first major problem. The Zephyrian ship's atmospheric composition was completely different from what humans could breathe. The air was thick with methane and sulfur compounds, while oxygen levels were barely detectable. Alina sealed herself into an environmental suit and made her way through the connecting tube. The inside of the Zephyrian ship was as beautiful as its exterior, with curved corridors that seemed to flow like rivers and walls that appeared to be made of living wood. Emergency lighting cast everything in an eerie orange glow. She found Zrikstal in what appeared to be the ship's control center, and Alina had to suppress a gasp of surprise. He was unlike anything she'd imagined. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, Zrikstal's body was covered in a chitinous exoskeleton that gleamed like polished bronze. His limbs were long and graceful, ending in delicate manipulator appendages that worked with incredible precision, but it was his head that truly marked him as alien. Compound eyes dominated his face, each one reflecting the emergency lights like a multifaceted jewel. Delicate antennae twitched constantly, and when he spoke, Alina could see that his mouth was designed for a completely different type of vocalization than human speech. Despite his alien appearance, Alina could see that Zrikstal was in serious distress. His movements were sluggish, and his exoskeleton had a dull, unhealthy appearance that suggested severe oxygen deprivation. Navigator Zrikstal, Alina said through her suit's communication system. I'm here to help. Can you walk? Zrikstal turned toward her, his compound eyes focusing with what seemed like great effort. Captain Rodriguez, you came aboard my ship. This is ... unprecedented. No other species has ever... We can discuss the cultural implications later, Alina interrupted gently but firmly. Right now, I need to get you to my medical bay. Can you move under your own power? With Alina's help, Zrikstal made the difficult journey to the stellar dawn. The transition through the airlock systems took nearly 20 minutes, as Alina had to carefully manage the atmospheric differences to avoid poisoning either of them. Once aboard her ship, she guided the Zephyrian to the medical bay and began the complex process of creating a breathable environment for him. Using the atmospheric requirements Zrikstal had transmitted earlier, Alina worked with her ship's computer to modify the medical bay's life support systems. It meant using nearly half of her emergency atmospheric reserves, but within an hour, she had created a small pocket of Zephyrian breathable air. As Zrikstal's conditions stabilized, Alina began to learn more about her unexpected passenger. The Zephyrian was not just any navigator, but the son of a high navigator. It's one of the most respected positions in Zephyrian society. He had been on a critical mission, carrying navigation data for a secret colony that was under threat from space. Pirates. My failure to deliver this information will result in the deaths of thousands of my people, Zrikstal explained, his translated voice heavy with despair. The colony's location must remain secret, but they need the navigation algorithms I carry to establish safe trade routes. Alina studied the data chips that Zrikstal had shown her. The information was encrypted in Zephyrian navigational code, completely incomprehensible to human computers. But she could see the urgency in Zrikstal's manner, the way his antennae trembled. When he spoke of his mission, how long do they have? Elena asked. Deparate raids were scheduled to intensify this week. Without the ability to receive supply shipments safely, the colony will be forced to abandon their settlement within days. Months of preparation, thousands of lives, an entire future for my people. All lost, because I failed. Alina looked at her navigation display, calculating distances and travel times. Zerkstel's destination was in the opposite direction from her own mission. Taking him there would add at least a week to her journey, and every day of delay meant more deaths on Kepler-4 to see. But she also knew that sometimes the right choice wasn't the easy choice. The difficult decision, navigators Rikstal, Alina said, settling into the chair next to the medical bay's monitoring station. I need to be honest with you about our situation. I'm carrying critical medical supplies to a human colony. People are dying there right now, and they're counting on me to arrive as quickly as possible. Zerkstel's antennae drooped, and Alina could see defeat in his posture. I understand, Captain Rodriguez. You've already done far more than duty required. By saving my life, I cannot ask you to sacrifice your people for mine. I didn't say I wouldn't help, Alina replied quietly. I'm just explaining the situation so you understand what we're dealing with. The Zephyrian's compound eyes focused on her with an intensity that was almost overwhelming. You would delay your own mission to help complete mine? But why? Our species have no alliance, no trade agreements. Your government would not reward such an action. Lena stood up and moved to the view screen, looking out at the stars. Let me tell you something about humans, Rikstal. We don't help people because we expect rewards. We help because it's the right thing to do, because somewhere out there, thousands of your people are counting on you to come home. Just like the people on Kepler-4 to see are counting on me. What? Save both groups, Zerkstal pointed out logically. Alina turned back to face him, a determined smile on her face. Maybe not, but I can try. And sometimes trying is enough to find a solution that nobody thought was possible. She moved to the navigation console and began plotting a new course. We're going to make a stop at the Zephyrian colony first. It's going to add time to my journey, but I've got some ideas about how to make up the difference. Human ships aren't known for their speed, but we're pretty good at taking shortcuts. This is madness, Zerkstel said, but Alina could hear something, like wonder in his translated voice. You would risk your mission, your reputation, possibly your life, for people you've never met, wouldn't you? Lena asked, engaging the new course. If you found a ship in distress, wouldn't you stop to help? Zerkstal was quiet for a long moment. My people. We would evaluate the political ramifications, the potential benefits and costs. We would make a logical decision based on our cultural priorities. And what would that logical decision be in this case? Another pause. We would likely continue to our original destination. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Alina nodded, understanding the reasoning even if she disagreed with it. That's where humans are different, I guess. We believe that sometimes the needs of the few matter just as much as the needs of the many. That every life has value, regardless of politics or alliances or logic. As the stellar dawn changed course toward the secret Zephyrian colony, Alina couldn't know that her simple act of compassion was about to set in motion events that would reshape the entire galaxy. She was just a cargo hauler trying to do the right thing, helping a stranded navigator complete his mission. But sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest waves. Journey to understanding during the 3-day journey to the Zephyrian colony. Alina and Zerkstal spent long hours talking. The Zephyrian was fascinated by human culture, particularly their apparent willingness to help strangers without expectation of reward. In return, he shared stories of his people's history, their achievements in navigation and space travel, and their complex social structures. Your species is still observed on the second day, as they sat in the ship's small, common area. Alina had rigged a portable atmospheric processor so that Zerkstal could leave the medical bay for short periods. In all our dealings with other species, we have never encountered such altruistic behavior. What do you mean? Lena asked, genuinely curious. Most species we encounter are motivated by profit, territory, or survival. They form alliances when it benefits them, and they abandon those alliances when circumstances change. But you help for no reason other than helping itself. Alina considered this. I suppose when you put it that way, it does sound strange. But it doesn't feel strange to me. It feels ... necessary, like breathing or eating. You see someone in trouble, you help them. It's just what you do. It's just what you do mentality. Could be perceived as weakness by other species. Extel warned. There are those who would take advantage of such generosity. Maybe, Alina agreed. But the alternative is worse. If we stop helping people because some people might take advantage, then we become the kind of species that abandons ships in distress. And I'd rather live in a universe where people help each other, even if it's sometimes dangerous. On the final day of their journey, as they approached the coordinates of the secret colony, Zrikstal made an observation that would prove prophetic. Captain Rodriguez, I believe my people need to learn from yours. For all our technological advancement, for all our navigational precision, we have perhaps lost something important. We have forgotten that sometimes the most logical course of action is to be illogical. Alina smiled. I prefer to think of it as being human. As the stellar dawn dropped out of hyperspace near the hidden Zephyrian colony, Alina saw dozens of graceful ships, similar to the wind through stars, arranged in defensive formations around a small planetary settlement. Her arrival, with Zrikstal aboard, caused quite a stir. The delivery of the navigation data was completed quickly and efficiently. Zrikstal was received as a hero, and Alina was treated with a level of respect and gratitude that seemed to make the Zephyrians themselves uncomfortable. It was clear that they weren't accustomed to owing debts to other species. But as Alina prepared to depart for her delayed medical supply run, Zrikstal approached her with something unexpected. Captain Rodriguez, my father is High Navigator Kethfer of the Zephyrian Collective. He has asked me to present you with these. Zrikstal handed Alina a set of crystalline data chips. They contain advanced navigation algorithms that will reduce your travel time to Kepler 44 to C by 60%. You should arrive only 1 day later than your original schedule. Alina stared at the chips in amazement. This is incredibly generous, but I can't accept payment for helping you. It is not payment, Zrikstal said solemnly. It is a gift. The first gift the Zephyrian Collective has ever given to a human. But more than that, it is a promise. What you have shown us, ... This kindness, this willingness to sacrifice for strangers, ... It is something precious, something worth protecting. As Alina departed the Zephyrian colony with the advanced navigation data, she had no idea that she had just planted a seed that would grow into something extraordinary. Behind her, Zrikstal was already composing a detailed report for his father about human behavior, human values, and the revolutionary concept of altruistic action. The report would change everything. But for now, Alina was just focused on getting her medical supplies to Kepler 4 to see as quickly as possible. Grateful for the Zephyrian gift that would help her save more lives.
Ow.
In her mind, it was just another successful cargo run. She had no way of knowing that she had just saved far more than one stranded navigator. She had saved the future of humanity itself. The Kindness Protocol Part 2. The Debt of Honor, the report. That changed everything. High Navigator Kethfer stood in the crystalline chamber that served as the heart of the Zephyrian Collective's governing council. His compound eyes reflected the soft blue light emanating from the living walls as he reviewed his son's report for the 100th time. Each reading revealed new details that challenged everything he thought he knew about interspecies relations. Zrikstal had been thorough in his documentation. Every conversation with Captain Alina Rodriguez was recorded. Every gesture analyzed, every decision she made, broken down into its component motivations. What emerged was a picture of behavior so alien to Zephyrian thinking that Kethfer had initially suspected some form of deception or hidden agenda, but the evidence was undeniable. The human had risked her own mission, delayed critical medical supplies to her own species, and used precious resources to save a complete stranger from a species she had never encountered before. When offered payment, she had refused. With logical arguments about the futility of her actions, she had dismissed them with simple statements about doing what was right. "Father," Zrikstal said, entering the chamber with the graceful movements that marked all Zephyrian navigators. "The Council of Elders has requested a summary of my findings." Kethfer turned from the display, his antennae twitching with the nervous energy that had plagued him since reading the report. "Your findings challenge the fundamental assumptions we have made about other species for millennia." "I know," Zrikstal replied, moving to stand beside his father. "But I have verified every detail." Captain Rodriguez's behavior was not aberrant. For her species, during our journey, she spoke of similar actions by other humans as if they were commonplace. She mentioned rescue operations, humanitarian missions, individuals who risk everything to help strangers. "Impossible," Elder Vaximor interjected as he entered the chamber. The ancient Zephyrian's exoskeleton bore the deep bronze coloring that came with extreme age, and his compound eyes held the wisdom of centuries. Such behavior would be evolutionarily disadvantageous. A species that consistently prioritizes others over itself would have died out long ago. Zrikstal's antennae tilted in the gesture that indicated respectful disagreement. Yet humans have not only survived but thrived. They have spread across dozens of star systems, established colonies in hostile environments, and created one of the most successful, expanding civilizations in the galaxy. Elder Vaximor settled into his position with the slow, deliberate movements of great age, and either your observations are flawed, or humans possess something we do not understand. Kethfer activated the chamber's central display, showing a three-dimensional map of known space. Blue dots marked Zephyrian territories, while green dots indicated human settlements. "I have been reviewing our intelligence reports on human activities across the galaxy." What Zrikstal observed was not an isolated incident. The display zoomed in on a distant sector where several green dots clustered around a dangerous asteroid field. 3 months ago, human ships responded to a distress call from a Krillin freighter caught in gravitational anomalies near the Zarian belt. The humans lost 2 ships in the rescue operation, saving 47 Krillins they had never met. Another section of the map highlighted showing a red zone marked with hazard warnings. 6 weeks ago, human medical ships entered a quarantine zone to provide aid during a plague outbreak on Centauri Prime. They risked infection to save members of a species that had previously denied them landing rights. Elder Vaximor's compound eyes focused on the display with growing intensity. "Show me more." For the next hour, Kethfer presented case after case: human rescue operations in hostile territory, human aid shipments to worlds that couldn't pay for them, human volunteers working in disaster zones across the galaxy. The pattern was consistent and undeniable. "They call it humanitarian aid," Zrikstal explained. "The concept translates roughly to helping because we are all living beings. They have entire organizations dedicated to providing assistance to anyone who needs it, regardless of species, politics, or ability to reciprocate." Elder Vaximor was silent for a long moment, his ancient mind processing implications that went far beyond simple interspecies relations. "If this behavior is genuine," he said finally, "then humans represent something unprecedented in galactic civilization." "Do you mean?" Kethfer asked. "Every species we have encountered operates according to predictable motivations: territorial expansion, resource acquisition, species survival, power accumulation. We can negotiate with them because we understand their goals. But humans, ... The elder paused, searching for words. "Humans appear to operate according to principles that transcend immediate self-interest. They help others not because it benefits them, but because they believe it is morally correct to do so." Zrikstal's antennae brightened with excitement. "Exactly." Captain Rodriguez explained it as a fundamental human value. They believe that the capacity to help others is what separates intelligent beings from simple animals. "This is either the greatest weakness or the greatest strength we have ever encountered," Elder Vaximor observed. "And given their success as a species, I am beginning to suspect it is the latter." The council's deliberation, the full council of elders, convened 3 days later in the Grand Assembly, a vast crystalline chamber that could accommodate the entire governing body of the Zephyrian Collective. Representatives from 12 sectors gathered to hear Zrikstal's report and debate its implications. The discussion was intense and occasionally heated. Some elders argued that human altruism was a form of evolutionary manipulation designed to gain trust before exploitation. Others suggested that humans were simply too primitive to understand the true nature of interspecies relations. But as more evidence was presented, the skeptical voices grew quieter. High Navigator Kethfer had spent weeks compiling intelligence on human behavior, and the pattern was undeniable. Humans helped others not when it benefited them, but when help was needed. The question before us, Elder Vaximer addressed the assembly, is not whether this behavior is genuine. The evidence is overwhelming. The question is what we do with this knowledge. Elder Cythera, known for her expertise in interstellar law, stood to speak. By all established protocols, we owe Captain Rodriguez a life debt. Zrixto would have died without her intervention. However, we have never owed such a debt to an alien species before. The precedent is irrelevant, declared Elder Korthvan from the military sector. A debt is a debt. Our honor demands payment. How do we repay someone who refuses payment? Asked Elder Yixtel. According to Zrixtel's report, the human explicitly rejected compensation for her actions. Zrixtel requested permission to speak. If I may, honored elders, I believe I understand something about human motivation that might guide our decision. Captain Rodriguez did not help me because she expected reward. She helped because she believed it was the right thing to do. We truly wish to honor her actions. Perhaps we should consider what she would consider to be the right thing to do in response. The chamber fell silent as the implications of this statement settled in. Finally, Elder Voximer spoke. You are suggesting that we adopt human moral principles in determining our response to human altruism. I am suggesting, Zrixtal replied carefully, that if we wish to truly understand this species, we must try to see the universe through their perspective. And from their perspective, the appropriate response to kindness is more kindness. Elder Korthvan S. Anteni twitched with agitation. Are you proposing that we extend aid to humans without expectation of return? That would be revolutionary, Elder Vaximar finished quietly. It would be absolutely revolutionary. The debate continued for hours, but gradually a consensus began to emerge. The Zephyrian Collective had built its reputation on honor, precision, and adherence to cultural protocols. If they were to maintain that honor, they could not allow a life debt to remain unpaid, regardless of how unprecedented the circumstances. But more than that, several elders began to express a deeper concern. If humans truly represented a species capable of genuine altruism, then they were something precious and rare in a galaxy often dominated by self-interest and conflict. I propose, Elder Vaximer said, as the debate wound down, that we establish a new protocol. We will monitor human activities across the galaxy. If what we have learned is true, if humans consistently demonstrate this capacity for selfless aid, then they deserve protection. Protection from what? Elder Cythera asked. From those who would exploit or destroy such altruism, Kethfer replied. There are species in this galaxy who would see human kindness as weakness to be taken advantage of. There are others who would see it as a threat to be eliminated. Vote was closer than usual for a council decision, but the resolution passed. The Zephyrian Collective would begin discreet observation of human activities throughout the galaxy. They would document instances of altruistic behavior and assess whether humanity truly represented something unique in galactic civilization. More importantly, they would be prepared to act if that uniqueness came under threat. The observation protocol over the following months, Zephyrian observation ships began appearing in systems throughout human space. They maintained their distance, using advanced stealth technology to avoid detection while monitoring human activities. What they found exceeded even their most optimistic expectations. Commander Thalanix submitted weekly reports from the Outer Rim territories, where human colony ships regularly detoured to assist vessels in distress. Her logs documented dozens of instances where humans risked their own missions to help strangers. Navigator Yelvash reported from the inner colonies, where human medical organizations operated free clinics for alien refugees displaced by various conflicts. The humans asked no questions about species, homeworld, or legal status. They simply provided care to anyone who needed it. Scholars Exterra, observing from the neutral trading stations along the galactic commerce routes, documented human merchants who routinely sold supplies at cost to struggling colonies. Human traders who warned other species about dangerous shipping routes, and human captains who shared their navigation data freely with anyone who needed it. But perhaps the most significant report came from Deep Space Monitor Voxrel, stationed in the lawless regions beyond the Outer Rim. He observed human vessels entering pirate-controlled territory, not to trade or profit, but to rescue kidnapped civilians from various species. These humans fought against overwhelming odds, often suffering casualties. Two free beings they had never met and would never see again. High Navigator Kethfer reviewed each report personally, and with each reading, his conviction grew stronger. Humanity was not just unique. They were potentially the most important species the galaxy had ever produced. Father Zerkstal said during one of their regular meetings, "I have been thinking about Captain Rodriguez's words during our journey. She said that helping others was like breathing for humans, something necessary and automatic. Yes, I remember that from your report. What if that is literally true? What if humans have evolved beyond the simple survival instincts that drive most species? What if their capacity for altruism is actually an evolutionary advantage?" Kethfer considered this. "Explain your reasoning." "Every species we have encountered is limited by its own perspective, its own needs, its own survival requirements. But humans seem capable of understanding and prioritizing the needs of others, even above their own immediate interests. This allows them to form alliances and cooperative relationships that other species cannot achieve. You think their altruism makes them stronger, not weaker?" "I think their altruism makes them capable of things that purely self-interested species cannot accomplish. They create networks of mutual aid, systems of cooperation that transcend traditional political boundaries. They inspire loyalty not through fear or obligation, but through genuine care for others' welfare." Kethfer nodded slowly. "And such a species would be incredibly valuable as an ally. Or incredibly dangerous as an enemy," Rikstal added quietly. "A species that fights not just for their own survival, but for principles they believe in, would be remarkably difficult to defeat." 3 months after the observation protocol began, High Navigator Kethfer received a priority communication from the Galactic Intelligence Division. The message was brief but alarming. "Multiple hostile fleets gathering in the Void Nebula. Composition suggests alliance between the Skorvik Empire, Razor Syndicate, and Darkstar Collective. Probable target, human territory. Estimated time to mobilization: 6 standard months." Kethfer felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's temperature. The 3 organizations mentioned in the intelligence report represented the most aggressive and expansionist forces in the known galaxy. Separately, each was a serious threat. Together, they could overwhelm human defenses and destroy everything that made humanity special. He immediately called for an emergency session of the Council of Elders. When they assembled, his message was simple and direct. "Honored elders, the time for observation has ended. Humanity faces extinction, and with it, the galaxy will lose something irreplaceable. We have a choice to make." Elder Vaximer leaned forward in his chair. "What choice? We can stand by and watch the universe's only truly altruistic species be destroyed by those who see kindness as weakness. Or we can prove that honor and gratitude are more than just words in our cultural codes." The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. "You are proposing military intervention," Elder Korthvin stated. "I am proposing that we repay our debt," Kethfer replied. "Captain Alina Rodriguez saved my son's life without thought of reward. In return, I propose that we save her entire species." The debate that followed was intense but brief. The evidence of human worthiness was overwhelming, and the threat was imminent. When the vote was called, it was unanimous. The Zephyrian Collective would mobilize its entire military fleet to defend humanity. They would repay kindness with protection, altruism with alliance, and one good deed with the full might of the most advanced naval force in the galaxy. The debt of honor would be paid in full. The gathering Storm Admiral Marcus Chen stood before the holographic display in the Strategic Operations Center on Luna Base, watching with growing dread as intelligence reports painted an increasingly dire picture. Art markers indicated hostile fleet movements throughout the outer sectors, converging on human space like a cosmic noose tightening around Earth and its colonies. How certain are we about these numbers? Admiral Chen asked his intelligence chief, Commander Sarah Mitchell. Commander Mitchell's expression was grim as she updated the display. 95% confidence, sir. The Skorvik Empire has committed 12 battle fleets. The Razor Syndicate is bringing 8 heavy assault groups. The Darkstar Collective has mobilized everything they have, including their experimental weapons platforms. Admiral Chen felt his stomach sink. Total enemy strength. Over 2,000 ships, sir? Everything from fast attack cruisers to planet-killer dreadnoughts. They've been planning this for months, possibly years. It's the largest hostile alliance we've ever faced. The Admiral turned to his tactical officer. And our defensive capabilities? Defense Force has 400 ships ready for immediate deployment, sir. We can call up reserve fleets from the colonies, but that would take weeks and leave our settlements defenseless. Admiral Chen nodded slowly, running the calculations in his head. Even with every ship humanity could muster, they would be outnumbered 5-1. Against an enemy alliance that controlled some of the most advanced military technology in the galaxy, those odds meant annihilation. Sir, Commander Mitchell said quietly, we've received reports from our early warning stations. The enemy fleets are moving faster than anticipated. Best estimate is that they'll reach the Sol system in 72 hours. The command center fell silent. 72 hours to prepare for the end of human civilization. Send immediate evacuation orders to all non-essential personnel on Luna Base and the outer stations. Admiral Chen ordered. Contact the colonial governors and inform them of the situation. If we fall, they need to prepare for siege conditions. As his staff moved to carry out the orders, Admiral Chen stared at the tactical display. Humanity had survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, world wars, and the challenges of interstellar expansion. They had overcome every obstacle through ingenuity, determination, and cooperation. But this time, those qualities might not be enough. The impossible arrival Captain Alina Rodriguez was halfway through a routine cargo run to the Titan mining facilities when her ship's communication array exploded with priority alerts. Emergency broadcasts flooded every channel. Painting a picture of approaching doom that made her blood run cold, she immediately changed course for Earth, pushing the Stellar Dawn's engines beyond safe limits. As she raced through hyperspace, Alina couldn't shake the feeling that the universe was playing a cruel joke. She had spent her career helping others, rescuing strangers, doing whatever she could to make the galaxy a better place. Now it seemed like all of that might end in the next few days. When she dropped out of hyperspace near Earth, the sight that greeted her was both inspiring and heartbreaking. Hundreds of human ships had gathered for humanity's last stand. Cargo haulers like her own had been hastily converted to carry additional weapons. Passenger liners had been turned into hospital ships. Even civilian craft had volunteered to serve as support vessels. But impressive as the human fleet was, Alina could see how outmatched they were. Intelligence reports indicated they would face an enemy force several times their size. Equipped with technology that far exceeded human capabilities, Alina was requesting permission to dock at Luna Base when her proximity alarms activated. Something massive was approaching from the outer system, moving faster than any ship she'd ever seen. All vessels, this is Luna Base Control, came the voice over the emergency channel. Unknown contacts approaching from Sector 7. All ships prepare for possible hostile contact. Alina turned her sensors toward the approaching objects and gasped. It wasn't one ship. It was hundreds of them. The vessels were elegant and organic-looking, with flowing curves and bronze-colored hulls that reflected the light of soul-like mirrors. She recognized the design immediately. Luna Base Control, Alina transmitted, her voice shaking with disbelief. Those aren't hostiles. Those are Zephyrian ships. The response from Luna Base was immediate. Captain Rodriguez, please confirm your identification of the approaching fleet. I'm certain. I've been aboard one of their vessels. But I don't understand what they're doing here. What they were doing became clear moments later, when a familiar voice spoke directly into Elena's mind. transmitted on Zephyrian telepathic frequencies that our ship's computer could barely translate. Captain Elena Rodriguez, of the human vessel Stellar Dawn. This is High Navigator Kethfer of the Zephyrian Collective. I carry greetings from my son, Navigator Zrixtal, and a message for your species. Elena's hands trembled as she opened a communication channel. Hi, Navigator Kethfer, this is Elena. I'm honored to hear from you, but I don't understand why are you here? Because of you, Captain Rodriguez. Because of what you taught us about the value of kindness. On Luna Base, Admiral Chen watched in amazement as the Zephyrian fleet took up defensive positions around Earth. Their ships moved with a precision and grace that human vessels couldn't match, forming geometric patterns that seemed almost artistic in their perfection. Admiral Commander Mitchell reported, her voice filled with wonder. The Zephyrian fleet consists of over 1,500 ships, including vessel types we've never seen before. Their combined firepower appears to exceed anything in our databases. Admiral Chen activated the communication system. Zephyrian fleet, this is Admiral Marcus Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We're grateful for your presence, but I must ask why you're here. High Navigator Kethfer's response came through the universal translators installed throughout the base. Admiral Chen, we are here to repay a debt. One of your people saved the life of my son, asking nothing in return. In response, we offer the protection of our entire fleet to your species. I don't understand, Admiral Chen replied. What debt? Elena's voice came over the channel. Admiral, I think I can explain. Several months ago, I rescued a Zephyrian navigator named Zrixtal. I helped him complete his mission and delivered him safely to his people. But it was just what anyone would do. No, Captain Rodriguez Kethfer's voice was warm with emotion. It was what only a human would do. In the months since that rescue, we have observed your species throughout the galaxy. Documented hundreds of instances where humans risk themselves to help others. Your capacity for altruism is unprecedented in galactic civilization. Admiral Chen felt a surge of hope for the first time in days. High Navigator, are you saying you're here to help us fight? We are here to ensure that the galaxy does not lose its only truly compassionate species, Kethfer replied. Your kindness is more valuable than any resource, more precious than any technology. It must be protected. The battle for humanity, the combined human Zephyrian fleet had barely finished coordinating their defensive positions when the enemy alliance arrived. The Scorvic Empire, Razor Syndicate, and Darkstar Collective dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their massive fleets darkening the space around Earth. Like a storm cloud of metal and hatred, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship UES Defiance, watching as thousands of enemy ships arranged themselves for attack. Even with Zephyrian reinforcements, they were still outnumbered, but the odds were no longer hopeless. Admiral reported as tactical officer, the enemy fleet is hailing us. Put them through. The main screen filled with the grotesque features of Supreme War Leader Gorthok of the Scorvic Empire. His scaled hide was covered with battle scars, and his reptilian eyes glowed with predatory hunger. Huma's Gorthok's voice was like grinding stone. You have spread your weakness across the galaxy for too long. Your pathetic compassion, your foolish altruism, it infects other species with softness. Today, we end your contamination of galactic civilization. Admiral Chen stepped forward, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the threat facing them. War Leader Gorthok, humanity has never attacked your people. We've offered aid to anyone who needed it, including members of your own empire. Exactly the problem, snarled Razor Syndicate Commander Vextal, her cybernetic implants glowing red with anger. You make others believe they deserve help, that they are entitled to compassion. This weakens the natural order, where the strong rule and the weak serve. Darkstar Collective Overmind Zaroth spoke last, its artificial voice devoid of emotion. Humans represent a philosophical threat to established power structures. Your elimination will restore proper hierarchy to galactic civilization. Navigator Kethfer's voice cut across the channel before Admiral Chen could respond. Scorvic, Razor, Darkstar, you call compassion weakness, but you require 3 entire fleets to attack one species. Who here is truly weak, Zephyrians? Gorthek spat. Your reputation for neutrality is legend. Why do you defend these humans? Because they showed us something we had forgotten, Kethfer replied. They reminded us that strength comes not from causing suffering, but from preventing it. That true power lies not in domination, but in service to others. The communication channel closed, and both fleets prepared for battle. What followed was the largest space battle in recorded galactic history. The enemy alliance attacked in waves, using their superior numbers to try to overwhelm the human Zephyrian defensive lines. Skorvik battleships launched devastating plasma bombardments while Razor Syndicate cruisers attempted hit-and-run attacks on the flanks. Darkstar Collective ships coordinated their assault with mechanical precision, but they had underestimated their opponents. Human tactical flexibility, combined with Zephyrian technological superiority, created a synergy that neither species could have achieved alone. Human commanders adapted quickly to changing battlefield conditions, while Zephyrian navigators used their advanced sensors to predict enemy movements with uncanny accuracy. Alina found herself in the thick of the fighting, her cargo hauler converted into a makeshift ambulance, racing between damaged ships to evacuate wounded crew members. She worked alongside Zephyrian rescue vessels, saving lives from both fleets. Without regard for species or nationality, during a brief lull in the fighting, she received a transmission from Navigator Zrixtal, who was coordinating rescue operations from a Zephyrian medical ship. Captain Rodriguez. His familiar voice brought a smile to her face, despite the chaos around them. I wanted you to know that watching your people fight has been... educational. How so? Lena asked, maneuvering around the wreckage of a destroyed Skorvik cruiser. Your warriors do not fight with hatred or anger. They fight to protect what they love. Even in battle, we have observed human crews risking themselves to rescue enemy survivors. It is remarkable. Alina nodded, understanding what he meant. She had seen it herself. Human crews pulling Skorvik survivors from damaged ships, even as the battle raged around them. Medical teams treating wounded enemies alongside their own people. It's just who we are, Alina said simply. No, Zrixtal replied. It is who you choose to be. That choice makes all the difference. The battle raged for 18 hours, with neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. But gradually, the combined effects of human adaptability and Zephyrian technology began to tell. Enemy ships found their formations disrupted by human tactical innovations, while Zephyrian weapons proved devastatingly effective against enemy armor. The turning point came when Supreme War Leader Gorthok himself led a massive assault on the human command ship. Admiral Chen's used Defiance found itself surrounded by Skorvik battleships, its shields failing under concentrated fire. That's when High Navigator Kethfer made a decision that would be remembered for generations. All Zephyrian vessels, his voice rang out across the battlefield, protect the human command ship, whatever the cost. The entire Zephyrian fleet converged on the Defiance, forming a protective shell around the human flagship. They absorbed the enemy attack with their own ships, sacrificing dozens of vessels to keep Admiral Chen alive. The gesture sent shockwaves. Through both fleets, the enemy alliance had expected to face a temporary alliance of convenience. Instead, they found themselves fighting opponents who would die for each other. Why? Gorthek's voice came over the communication channel filled with genuine confusion. Why do you sacrifice yourselves for them? Kethfer's response was broadcast to every ship in the battle zone. Because Captain Alina Rodriguez once told my son that helping others is what separates intelligent beings from simple animals. Today, we choose to be intelligent beings. The new alliance, the enemy fleet, began to withdraw after losing nearly half their ships. The alliance between the Skorvik Empire, Razor Syndicate, and Darkstar Collective crumbled as each group blamed the others for the failed assault. They'd come expecting to face a weak, divided opponent. Instead, they encountered something they couldn't understand. Two species fighting as one, united by shared values rather than mere convenience. In the aftermath of the battle, Alina found herself aboard High Navigator Kethfer's flagship, standing in the same type of crystalline chamber where she had first met Zrixtal. But this time she wasn't alone. Admiral Chen, Commander Mitchell, and dozens of other human officers had been invited to witness what Kethfer called the formalization of understanding. Captain Rodriguez, Kethfer said, his compound eyes reflecting the soft light of the chamber. When you rescued my son, you set in motion events that have changed the galaxy forever. Alina shook her head. I just helped someone who needed help, that's all. That is everything, Kethfer replied. Your action taught us that there is more to existence than survival, more to civilization than competition. You showed us the power of compassion. Admiral Chen stepped forward. Hi, Navigator. On behalf of humanity, I want to thank you and your people for coming to our aid. Without your intervention, our species would have faced extinction. And without your example, Kethro replied, our species would have remained, forever isolated, forever limited by our own perspective. The debt of gratitude flows both ways. Zrixto approached Alina, carrying a small crystalline device. Captain Rodriguez, the Zephyrian Collective wishes to offer you something unprecedented in our history. What is it? Alina asked. Command of the first joint human Zephyrian exploration vessel. We wish to learn more about this galaxy we share, and we can think of no better teacher than the human who taught us the value of kindness. Alina stared at the device, which she realized was some kind of captain's insignia. I'm just a cargo hauler. I'm not qualified for something like this. You are qualified by the most important measure, Kethfer said gently. You care about others more than yourself. In our experience, that is the rarest and most valuable qualification of all. Over the following weeks, the formal alliance between humanity and the Zephyrian Collective was negotiated and signed. It was unlike any agreement in galactic history. It's based not on mutual benefit or shared resources, but on shared values and mutual respect. The combined human Zephyrian fleet began patrolling the galaxy, offering protection to peaceful species and aid to those in need. They established rescue stations in dangerous sectors, provided medical assistance to worlds ravaged by disease or disaster, and mediated conflicts between hostile species. Other civilizations watched these developments with a mixture of admiration and concern. Some species, inspired by the human Zephyrian example, began developing their own humanitarian programs. Others, threatened by the spread of altruistic values, began forming defensive alliances. But for Alina Rodriguez, now captain of the exploration vessel Harmony, the galaxy had become a place of infinite possibility. Each day brought new opportunities to help others, new chances to prove that kindness was not weakness, but strength. Epilogue: The Ripple Effect. 3 years after the Battle of Earth, Alina stood on the observation deck of the Harmony, watching, as her joint human-Zephyrian crew worked together to establish a relief station for refugees from the Corvin system. The cooperation between the two species had become so natural that it was hard to remember a time when they were strangers. Joined her at the window, his compound eyes reflecting the lights of the construction work. I have been thinking about something you said when we first met. What's that? Alina asked. You said that helping others was like breathing for humans, something necessary and automatic. Alina nodded. I remember. I think I understand. Now what you meant. For my people, helping others has become like breathing as well. We cannot imagine going back to the way we were before. Alina smiled, watching as human and Zephyrian workers collaborated on the relief station's construction. That's the thing about kindness. Once you start practicing it, it becomes a habit. Good habits spread. Indeed they do. Zrixtel agreed. Our intelligence reports indicate that 12 species have established humanitarian programs modeled after our alliance. The Andromedan Council has passed resolutions requiring aid to be provided to any species requesting it. Even some former enemy groups have begun questioning whether aggression is truly the path to prosperity. Alina felt a warm sense of satisfaction. When she had rescued Zrixtal from his damaged ship, she had never imagined that one small act of kindness could have such far-reaching consequences. But then again, that was the nature of kindness. It spread outward like ripples in a pond, touching lives and changing hearts in ways that could never be predicted. Captain Rodriguez came the voice of Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park Elenas. Human First Officer, we're receiving a distress call from the Vega system. A transport carrying Deltan refugees has suffered engine failure. Lena straightened, already moving toward the bridge. Set course for Vega, maximum speed. And notify. the Zephyrian medical teams to prepare for possible casualties. As the Harmony changed course toward the new emergency, Alina reflected on how much her life had changed. She was still a cargo hauler at heart, still someone who transported things from one place to another. But now, instead of carrying medical, supplies, or trade goods, she carried something far more valuable. She carried hope. The kindness protocol that had begun with one simple rescue had become a galaxy-spanning network of compassion and cooperation. And every day, that network grew. Stronger, reaching out to touch new lives and create new possibilities for peace. Alina had learned that in a universe often dominated by conflict and competition, kindness was indeed a revolutionary force. And she was proud to be part of the revolution. The Harmony raced through hyperspace toward the Vega system, carrying with it the promise that no one would be left alone in the darkness. That promise, born from one human's simple decision to help a stranger, had become the foundation of a new age in galactic civilization. An age where kindness was not weakness, but the greatest strength of all,